Hello and welcome to the Rat Nest Podcast, episode number 20, with artist Chelsee Harris.
Woo!
Thank you so much for being on today and hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. First podcast.
First podcast, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right on.
I think
and probably like the fourth time I've done Zoom this year, or like this whole pandemic, which is kind of unique, right?
That's a good fun.
Yeah, I think I got kind of lucky, I guess.
I've been on Zoom nonstop during this entire pandemic between the podcast and work and other stuff. It's like, I feel like Zoom has become my new bedroom.
Yeah.
Just
always there.
My perks of working in a restaurant, I guess.
Yeah.
So Chelsee, let's get right into this. You're from San Diego.
Yep.
We had mutual friends, including your sister and brother-in-law, and we might have hung out maybe a birthday party for a parent or something. When did they all do, like Tiger like years ago? Like 3 years ago. When was that? I feel like that night, and then you're like, just didn't see you for a long time. Maybe you were at school. All right, this is too much. We're going too far back too quick.
Let me go back in my memory bank. There's the files. 2015, 16? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe about that. That sounds about right, actually. So,
yeah.
About the time were you already in school? You were going to Grossmont in San Diego City College, or?
Yeah, I went to Grossmont for like 8 years, or something really ridiculous like that, and then I went to Humboldt State in 2016 to 18.
Okay, so well, to your defense, I went to City College for 6 years too, and never even got an AA. So don't worry about it. You're doing just fine.
Thank you. It's a deep wound.
Yeah. I feel like I'm still recovering. Like a part of my adult mind is like, should I just go back to school? I'm like, I'm right there.
I've thought that in the past 6 months for sure. Why not? Let's get another AA. Let's get a master's degree, whatever. Yeah,
I can't pull myself to do it. It's been too long, like too far removed, because I haven't been technically like in a classroom in 8 years. So I don't know, time is just playing a trick on me. I'm like, I'm going to be the old guy in class that asks the dumb questions, that's so like into what we're talking about that everyone hates me.
Yeah, I was definitely that person in Humboldt. Like I was just older than those like traditional college students, that I was like serious about it and I wanted to get in and out as fast as I could. And I was just like the annoying like girl that had to get straight A's and stuff.
Was it any type of culture shock, like either going from San Diego to Humboldt or coming back after you'd been there for a couple years back to San Diego? Because I know they're like two very different cultures.
Yeah, I think I was continually getting frustrated with how laid back everybody was. And I'm like kind of high strung. So I didn't really feel like I fit in there very well. And then I guess coming back, I was like, yeah, this is what I want. Like I felt like I had been beating my head against the wall for like 2 years or 3 years, however long I was there. And I was like, this is my place. I'm back. Yeah. Everything's too chill. Nobody cares.
Coming from San Diego and you saying somewhere is too chill is pretty remarkable. But I guess it's different when you're born and raised there, right?
In San Diego, yeah. Third generation San Diego.
Like other people come to San Diego as adults and they're like, this place is like too laid back for me. Like, I don't know.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I guess if I were to compare it to like LA or something.
New York, LA,
yeah.
Chicago, I don't know. Any big city, like San Diego has that big city mentality with still being a very like laid back place, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Humboldt's just like way too small. Like there's no city within there at all.
Right. It's like you got the lay of the land and got to know everyone like instantly, and then you're just part of the group until you're not.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it.
So through your tenure at City College and then going up to Humboldt, were you studying art? Like, was that your primary objective and going and working on techniques and stuff?
Yeah, I was kind of like dicking around. I actually went to Grossmont and I don't think I ever went to City. I think I wanted to, but I didn't. But just trying to figure it out. I thought it was going to be like a lighting technician for plays or something. And then I was like, that teacher like scared me away from it. It's like like bad hours, no pay, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to school for art history and studio art then, because that's so different.
Yeah. So much more pay in studio art, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there isn't until there is, I guess. There's like, I guess if you're going for lighting, the objective would to be to learn everything you can to move up, whether it's in lighting or not, as far as production goes. And in studio art, you just kind of have to create until you get a bite, until like there's the buzz or something happens, and then you start trying to bank. Just make as much as you can while you got it, right? While you have the audience in front of you. But
yes.
So you just graduated, you said 2017, 18?
18, yeah.
18, and you've been steadily producing mixed media artwork since then. I mean, just going on your website and checking out a little bit about you. I didn't do any like deep dives.
You didn't find my MySpace?
No, not yet. We're probably friends. But just trying to like figure out who you are a little bit, just looking at your stuff. Because I didn't want to harass our mutual acquaintances or anything and just tell me everything I want the dirt on Chelsee. But your work speaks for itself. It's super dope. It's a mixed media, but it's also almost like a mixture of styles, because you could look at it and think it's kind of one style, and then you look closer and you realize that there's a lot of other techniques and mediums that go into creating the pieces that you make. Tell me a little bit about how you started working with everything. Did you start using acrylics first? Was it just spray paint? Was it, I don't know, throwing art and doing like abstract stuff when you were a kid, or making bracelets? Like, what really got you into creating stuff?
When I was in high school, well, I've always been like drawing and painting and stuff since like elementary school, but in high school I got really into it and took it all through high school. But I was really heavily, I don't know, like trained or like going to classes to reproduce things. Like I was taking classes at school and then after school at the studio in La Mesa. And she taught me a lot about like reproducing stuff, like taking like a artist's work that you really like and then trying to figure out how they did it and like copy that as best as you can. I always thought like it would be so cool to be an art forger or something. So yeah, that's how things kind of started. And then that eventually kind of got me to where I am now, where I feel like I'm still reproducing stuff, but I'm not copying other people's stuff. I'm like collaging them together in a way. I think like I like to think of my work as collage, but instead of cutting and pasting things together, I'm like reproducing or painting or drawing those things using observation or a projector or whatever.
So was that like when you say you were trying to like not forge but copy people's things, is it just figuring out how the styles work? Because
yeah, like looking at a Van Gogh or something and trying to figure out how he would have held the brush or how he would have loaded his paint on it or where he would have started to get to that end, you know?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not trying to I wasn't trying to copy people's stuff and then pass it off as my own or anything. Just, it was like, she called it like a master's reproduction or something, but.
Right. And I think that's the idea, especially when you get into fine art, is to be able to know the technique behind all these iconic styles and iconic classes of artwork. So that if there is something that you can be a part of that might be for restoration or, you know, or duplication for a public setting to make it look as true to the style and the time period and this and that. It's like, that's what art school is really for. It's like, I still have a heavy hand. I still can't paint well, but the knowledge you kind of gain when you're going through all these things, especially art history, is you get a certain appreciation, I guess, for the time periods and the materials used.
Yeah. That's that was always the fun stuff learning about. And I forgot about this, but when I transferred to Humboldt, the original goal was to eventually go to grad school to do art conservation. So that kind of goes. It's a linear path in a way.
So as I kind of, as I'm looking through your Instagram just right here, I noticed kind of along those lines, you have a lot of different styles kind of combined in a lot of paintings. You know, there's a lot of abstract stuff in the back, but then there's really fine detailed line work. And then you use dimension and depth like a lot. So it's obvious that you grasped all the styles as you're going through, like in school. What would you say was your favorite, or the one that you grabbed onto the most or enjoyed the most going through school? Because obviously they're all there. Which one do you like the best?
I think I wrote my most of my papers and stuff on like surrealism, but trying to talk more about the women artists in that movement, or on the fringes of, than the men, and how the men kind of like sucked. And how the women there were like really informing them, but never really got the credit for it. Yeah, so I guess surrealism, but not like Dolly or something, you know, the edges of it.
Yeah, so the history behind kind of the women that actually kind of catalyst this surrealist type of painting, that's more what drew you to it. Not necessarily, oh, I like painting a surrealist thing. It's more the history behind it actually attracted you to it, probably allowing you to play around and experiment with that style a lot more than you may have. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. But I think not really in a connected way. I'm always like kind of jumping around, and I feel like I'm just trying to do that in my art too, like trying to keep myself interested, and that means being all over the place sometimes.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
In that regards of jumping around in your art, when you start a fresh canvas, do you have an idea of what you're doing? Or do you really let it kind of just unfold as you work?
Maybe I'll have like an image that I initially like want to use. So I watch a lot of movies, and I'll take screenshots while I'm watching those movies. And then that's not all the time, but a lot of the time, the base for the start of the painting, like a room from a movie or something. I really am interested in rooms for some reason. So that will be like the kickoff point, and then I just go with whatever.
Let it take form however it goes, huh?
Yeah. I just keep scrolling the internet or books and stuff, and until I find another image that I think is like cool that should be there too.
Is it hard to just is it hard to like describe your paintings when you work like that? Because maybe it did unfold naturally, and you have to kind of like, if someone asks you about it, you have to kind of come up with something to tell them instead, or do you say like, it's, you know, it's almost like an abstract, or like, I don't know, emotional representation of something more so than it is a cohesive thought of like this versus that?
Yeah, I guess like I haven't really established like a process of doing things completely. So if we're talking like a specific painting, I'll like try to go back in my brain and be like, okay, well, what was going on there, and what was I trying to do, or if I was trying to do something. But every time I walk up to like a blank piece I work on this like paper stuff. Every time I walk up to a blank one, I'm like, oh, it's like I forgot everything that I've ever known. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, who am I? You know, it's like this existential crisis every single time.
I think that's good though, just like clear everything out. It's like really the self-doubt just kicks in, and you're like, who am I? And that's a basis to start it.
Yeah, and sometimes you just gotta like mess it up and put some paint down, and then the cool thing about the paper is it's like a little bit transparent, so I can flip it to the back of the page or the back of the paper and work on that if I hated what I did on the other side, but I'll still see a little bit through.
What kind of paper are you working on? I'm sorry, did I miss that?
It's called Duralar. It's like this plastic kind of paper stuff, but it's a little misty and you can see through it, and you can do pretty much anything on it. You could do like acrylics or oil or colored pencils or ink or whatever. It just takes, and it doesn't really like, it lays flat pretty much always. So it's cool stuff.
Do you do pen and ink illustrative stuff, or is it pretty strictly painting?
It's pretty strictly painting, yeah.
Cool.
Going back to when you were saying you kind of let your art free flow and you might have an idea, but you just kind of let it take shape. I noticed you got to paint one of the utility boxes down in San Diego, and that turned out incredible. The colors and the line detail just is super, super right on. I assume the city had to like say okay to your design before you painted it. So was that one a little more tough because you actually had to like come up with a layout and an idea that you could submit and then actually do what you said you were going to do rather than getting to kind of morph it as you go? Or were you able to morph that as you go and the city was cool with it? Or how would that experience go?
That was a cool project that was with Mindful Murals, the San Diego Museum of Art, and SDG&E. They took art that was submitted from kids of like all ages, and then they had artists submit themselves to this open call, and then they paired you up with a kid's art. And then it was your job to reinterpret or reproduce that kid's art onto the box.
Oh, so cool.
The kind of basis for that box, I didn't have to ever like submit anything to them. They just kind of trusted that we weren't going to put penises and vaginas on it or something. But like I had to take this kid's like painting of a farm and then put that on the box in my way, but I still wanted the kid to feel like represented. So it wasn't completely me and it wasn't completely them. It was somewhere that I felt like we met in the middle.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a cool concept too, to probably allow these kids to feel connected with the art scene and the city, and growing up knowing that their stuff was painted by an artist and got put out there probably is a big confidence booster for their artistic or creativity.
Yeah, I think that's like such a cool idea. And I love projects like that. I would love to be involved in more things like that, or like doing some kind of mural where people come paint it with you has always been something that I wanted to do. And then they took the kids' art and I think they showed it at the San Diego Museum of Art. So even as a kid to have a piece up at the museum, like, I don't know, that's sick. Huge. I would love that as a kid.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool.
Have you done a lot of public projects, or is that like one of the only ones you've done? Or
back in community college, I painted a couple of utility boxes, but they were never really like my own, you know, like I maybe shared the box with somebody, or I think the first one I did was like a George O'Keeffe inspired box. So I just kind of chose 4 paintings that I like of hers and then did them on the sides. So no, I actually haven't done much public community art stuff, but I hope the Mindful Murals thing starts kicking that off, or like hopefully I try to find more projects like that or something.
Speaking of like someone who lived in San Diego for 15 years, and then I just moved about a year ago out to the Indio area, Southern California desert. There's public art here, and the Palm Springs and desert area here has a lot of art per se. There's a lot of galleries there. It seems like there's a lot of interest in it, but it's a completely different format of doing things. It's a lot of public sculptures that can last out here in the desert, the harsh environment, and then a lot of just really, really fine art tuned to the people that have vacations or second homes out here, that have lots of money, that are willing to pay for these big pieces. Whereas San Diego, I felt like had a lot more of a scene that started with young artists, say early 20s college kids that were just ambitious and wanted to produce public art. And the city kind of like rolled with it, you know, for them. I didn't realize it at the time living down there, but when you go somewhere else and you don't see that kind of stuff, you're like, why isn't everyone doing this? Why isn't every city like this?
Yeah. I probably get the vibe from like the Palm Spring area that it's a little more, for lack of a better term, kind of hoity-toity, you know.
Geriatric.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm sure there's like really cool pockets.
It's old money, and it's a lot of people that have money from different parts of the United States, Canada, probably worldwide, that this is their secondary home. So imagine if you could afford a $700,000 second home that you go to a couple of weeks out of the year. You're not going to think twice about a $15,000 piece of art if you like it. You're going to buy that thing, right? So I think that's where the focus is on out here. It helps people stay in business because there is an off season the second it gets hot until fall. So we're about 4 months out of the year. No one's doing anything out here.
Yeah. What do they call them? Snowbirds?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
not to switch subjects from the amazing desert life out there, but I noticed the mural in the background that right there, all the bright colors and like the line work and stuff. That's something that you did recently, or do you change that up a lot in your space to like give yourself something to look at, or kind of give me an idea of how you work in that space and practice those murals? Because that's what you're getting into the most right now is like muraling, right?
In my head, yes, but not in reality. I would like that to be where things go right now. But the idea of that was just kind of like, I've been wanting to like paint a mural, but you got to find a wall or somewhere or somebody that will let you practice on something. And then I was like, in January, I was like, I have a freaking studio. I have blank walls. Like, why don't I just throw something up, or why don't I just get freaky on it? And that's what I did. So I'm going to paint over it soon and try something else out and just try to document it. And then, I don't know, just practice, I guess. Because painting that big, I've never painted that big before. And it's like,
a whole different beast, huh?
Yeah, it's really fun. And I would like that to keep going.
Your canvas. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I dig the colors and the neon and contrast and super bright colors that you have going on in there. It's funny how you can the same exact picture, if you would have done that mural with more muted colors, it would have a completely different character, and just the way that choosing those colors together, or the brightness of those colors, allowed that character to pop out. And it is that, like you said, get freaky with it. It has that feeling and that characteristic for sure, as opposed to, browns or tans would have made it look a lot more solemn or whatever.
Yeah, it started off as just those black lines. Like, I saw somebody online like using this weird roller, and I was like, how did he do that? Or like, what is that? And so I just kind of got obsessed. And this like goes back to like wanting to figure out how people are doing things. Like, I'll see somebody online doing some kind of technique that's really coveted, and I just get obsessed. And I'm like, I need to figure out how they do this. And I won't tell anyone. I just want to know, So I ended up taking a Dremel to a roller for like hours.
Dude, that's cool.
And like cutting out little sections of it.
Wow, that's rad though. That's super. Whenever you can kind of come up with a technique or morph something or see something someone did and make it your own, or do it the way you can do it with your resources, that's fun to me. That's DIY right there. That's what art's all about.
Yeah. That's good stuff. I feel like people might like look down on that, like you're trying to copy them or something, but
that's kind of been a theme across a handful actually of these podcasts, talking to artists, and it gets brought up, whether you're copying or getting inspiration from, none of it is wrong. You know, I think the only time you'll find yourself wrong is when you're trying to sell your work as someone else's. But as long as you're true to yourself and you're like, well, I'm using this person as inspiration, of course it's going to look like their work. And you just stand by it and are truthful about it. I don't think there's anything wrong about that. And I think that's kind of the consensus of most artists that we've been interviewing. It's like, you got to find your inspiration from where you can, and you don't deny it when it shows up. So if it comes from another artist, run with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's always the, I guess, staying conscious of like the imposter syndrome, like kind of keeps you grounded a little bit, like always questioning, like, am I doing too much right now? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
If you don't have crippling self-doubt, if you're not worried about copying everyone with everything you do, or being a phony or a sellout, or if you don't have that stuff, you're probably not making that great art. You're probably really good at doing something, but it's not going to be as natural to who you are. I don't know. It's like the handful of people that I know, we all deal with the same shit, and it comes from some sort of not getting hugged when we were children, right? Some sort of like something we have to prove that we're doing this thing and we're original and we're not copying and we're not, you know, I don't know. It's just nothing's ever good enough. Yeah, I don't know.
This has been therapy session with Matt.
Do you feel that way? Because I mean, I'm just saying, like, this is personally, that's how I felt at times. I know other artists who felt that way.
Oh yeah, I think it's a good, there's a good amount to have. And I think we've all met artists that don't have that at all, and they're probably assholes and their art sucks.
Thank you. Yes, that's what I was going for. Yes. Yeah. I'm totally kidding. Whoever's out there with great art that isn't self-doubting and self-conscious about their work, more power to you.
I know. I was just kidding.
Just jealous. That's all.
Yeah, we're just not there yet. So, you know, we're still working on it. I should go to therapy because maybe that's what lifts the layer off, and then you can just paint freely. You're like, nah, it doesn't matter. I'm like my own individual, whatever.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah. So moving on, I want to ask you something because I read I do a little research. We don't plan any questions, but I did want to kind of piggyback off something that you did for the SD Voyager in that interview where you said that your mom said you were raised by TV.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate? Because I feel the very much of my curriculum comes from like The Simpsons. Was there like shows when you were young that just taught you everything, or like what were you into when you were like a kid?
Barney was a big one.
Okay.
He taught me everything I know.
Barney's pretty there. No. Yeah, all right.
I definitely was a small child that was obsessed with Barney, and my sister would definitely make fun of me for it because I had like I can picture this one picture where I'm like wearing Barney pajamas, and I've got one Barney in my arm and then another Barney in my arm, and I'm wearing Barney slippers. Like, I just love that. Like, I wish I could be that kid again that was just so saturated in something. But yeah, my parents divorced when I was 3, and my mom remarried a couple years afterwards, but he was like going to school all the time and like working, so it kind of felt like my mom was a single parent. So she would like take me on jobs. She was like a masseuse and she cleaned houses, so she would take me on jobs with her, and I would just like watch TV while I was there, or like, I don't think I was like a latchkey kid, but like kind of was, where, you know, she's off working and then we're home, Christy and I are home alone, and like, what are you going to do? You're going to watch TV or whatever. So definitely did a lot of that. And I still do. I still watch a lot of TV. I watch movies all the time, but at this point it's like, it's part of the process. It's part of what's informing what I'm doing. So I don't really feel guilty about it.
You know, there was a stigma, I think, when we were younger. I don't know exactly how old you are, but I know when I was a kid, it was like, oh, you shouldn't be watching so much TV. You know, parents limit the amount of time your kids watch TV. Now, I feel like that has completely gone away. It's like, if you want to watch TV, go for it, because it keeps you off your iPad. it keeps you out of your video games or whatever. And I think now TV has become so much more of a tool of gaining information or recognizing social norms or what's going on in the world by the way that shows kind of present themselves and present the issues within their storylines, whether it be drama or comedy or whatever. I think TV now has kind of been accepted a little bit more as, yeah, go ahead and watch TV because it's going to shape you. And everybody has been shaped our age by those hours and hours watching TV. You know, when mom and dad were still at work and I'd get home, make myself a quesadilla and watch 4 hours of TV till they got home. And then like right before they got home, turn it off and run in my room and act like I was, working on my homework.
Oh yeah, that sounds about right. And I would if I had kids right now, I'd way rather have them watch TV than be on social media for hours on end or something,
Right.
So
or
TV's great. TV's great.
Yeah, big ups TV.
We're rallying behind TV because we know the horrors of the internet, like the terrible things that can happen on the internet. So we're like, just watch TV. It's fine. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't like my mom would let me go out and play in the street or something because she was kind of paranoid. She always would tell me oh, Chelsee, don't ever go anywhere by yourself. You're going to get kidnapped and raped.
Oh, shoot.
So
she's being real
TV's
honest.
a safe place for that.
Yeah. Not to pivot, what a lively conversation, but I do want to bring up something super cool that you've got going. You were just featured in Soft Quarterly, right?
Yeah, Soft, it's like a quarterly magazine, and I applied for this issue, which I think I honestly don't know. I think it's the spring issue, but I have 2 paintings in it, and they're really cool, and everyone should apply to be in it because they curate it really well, and it's really a nice physical object that's not just online. It's this really nicely printed booklet thing that's pretty extensive.
Now, were you able to submit your own ideas of artwork, or was it okay, we want a specific style, or we're gonna we're doing this theme for this book, so try and make it like that?
I think all of their issues, they try to have everyone gear what they're submitting to be within the Soft umbrella, whatever soft means to you. So I just kind of wrote a thing to them trying to explain why I thought my paintings were soft or something. And then I think I sent them 4 paintings, and then they were we're interested in these 2. Can you elaborate on what you were saying about them or whatever?
That's super cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. I think their submissions for the next issue are still open until the 30th. So if anyone's wanting to get published in something, they should just submit.
Yeah, all you rodents out there, you need to get on that. Look up Soft Quarterly and start submitting.
Where's all the soft boys and girls at?
Yeah, could you just look up Soft Quarterly? I'm sure you can find it. But do you happen to know their Instagram or anything off the top? I don't know it.
I think it's soft, regular spelling, and maybe .QRTY, or probably if you search Soft
it's
Quarterly.
Soft. QTRLY.
Oh, that's kind of right.
Yeah.
So that's people should get involved with for sure.
Yeah. And I feel they have some kind of San Diego connection, but I'm not really sure about that.
For sure. Yeah, I think I don't know, dude. San Diego's a hotbed for a lot of different types of artists, especially hungry ones that are doing stuff themselves, which is refreshing. I'm sure every big city is. I always go back to San Diego because I lived there. I didn't live in LA or San Francisco. So everyone has their own scene, but in my experience, San Diego is just a lot of DIY and kids that will jump on wherever they can jump on and try to get their work out there, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. I feel I'm just starting to dip my toe in the art scene in San Diego, because when I moved back from Humboldt, I was living in Escondido, and then 3 months later the pandemic hit, and then eventually now I'm living in South Park, and that's been really fun and cool. But yeah, now this past year has been just kind of not really productive in the sense of like going out and like meeting people and feeling like that's okay to do, you know?
Yeah. We're trying to be the social mixer for people that aren't social mixing.
Yeah, right.
So you live in South Park now. That's an awesome neighborhood. I lived around there for many years, and I have to ask you this: Are the families taking over South Park? Get out of here, children! No more children in South Park.
Absolutely, and it's like a prerequisite. You have to have a dog, and I felt like I was left out for a long time, but I got a dog in March, so I feel like I belong in South Park now.
You're in
Can
now.
finally be a true South Parker.
Yeah.
So funny. I'm just kidding. I love that it's become like the family neighborhood, but I was like, dude, this is where all the poor artists like used to live.
Yeah.
That's how it starts, huh?
Right. Let's go, San Diego. All right. So I have to ask you this too. And all your work is mixed media for the most part?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, so can you give us a quick breakdown of the do's and don'ts when mixing oils and acrylics and inks and washes, just for, the viewer's sake, my sake, as an artist? I would love to hear your input on like what works and doesn't work.
So the rules that I try to guide myself by are, if you're going to do on one painting acrylic and oil, you got to start with acrylic, and the oil is going to be the last thing. You can't put acrylic on top of oil. You physically can do that, but it will peel.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other kind of rule would be fat over lean. So do all your thin layers for the most part first, and then you can get thicker and thicker with your paint. I don't really abide by that too much. I'm not super worried about that. I think if I was strictly an oil painter, I would try to take that into account more. But yeah, fat over lean, acrylic first, then oil.
That seems pretty simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's easier said than done.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
sarcasm there. I hope it came through.
Well, and it depends on like what kind of pigments you're using, and some acrylics and oils can definitely be broken down different ways to not. You could use them in the opposite way, but by definition, she's saying everything correct. You were correct, Chelsee.
Oh, thank you. Was that I didn't know that was like a test.
Yeah.
No, it just no one should be putting down oil paint and then acrylic over it. Like you said, it just bleeds through, bubbles through, it comes out. Your paint's gonna peel. But I thought maybe you had like the inside on like if you use this won't happen.
Oh. Sometimes I'll like seal my layers in with like clear gesso or like matte medium or like gloss medium, so that they're kind of like protected, so that if you want it to like stay that way but you want to work on top of it.
That's always been something that's interesting, because people that might be really into painting and stuff but haven't necessarily been introduced to the idea of those medias of like, I don't even know, like liquid or just like a matte medium or like something like a clear coat, where you can build layers on top of each other and still give it that flatness with creating depth with still having it like be a flat piece of canvas or paper, board or whatever you're using. But those little bottles of clear mediums are probably the most misunderstood thing to me, because I don't know too much about all of them. I use liquid a lot.
Yeah, it's all like trial and error. I don't really know much about acrylic, and every time I use acrylic, I'm like, why am I doing this? This would look better in oil. But I'm trying not to do oil so much, because I feel like my options are so limited once I do that. But yeah, I don't know what I'm saying.
It was my tangent of why liquid clear coats and liquids are misunderstood in the community. I guess I don't know.
So not only do you do mixed media painting, but you dabble in completely other creative aspects too, right? You make earrings. It look like you macrame them or knit them or something. Oh. Did I see your COVID? You actually made COVID virus earrings?
Yeah. I used to make them a lot more. Like they're pom-poms. They're made with yarn. And I used to make like, I don't know, like them into strawberries or into pineapples or eyeballs or whatever. But my brother-in-law's mom asked me to make COVID ones for Mother's Day, or somebody asked me to make them for her for Mother's Day or something. Oh no, Chris's dad asked me to make them for Chris's mom for Mother's Day. So it was a surprise for her.
Okay. Yeah, they turned out great. They look just like that, just like the virus molecule.
I tried, but I don't really do it so much anymore. It really hurts my hands and just takes so much time.
Oh, sorry to bring that up. Nobody try and order COVID earrings. She doesn't do it anymore.
Well, I would if it was the right price. I would,
Yeah. Every artist's truest words, right there.
We're gonna have macrame earrings by Chelsee on Rat Nest next month for $80.
No, yes. Like I'm doing the arm thing. Cut that
out. Oh, that's great.
Just kidding. So before we get going here, who was like your inspiration as a kid to get into art? Was it your sister? Was it your parents? Was it
Barney?
Like, was it Barney?
Barney. It was definitely Barney.
I want to see this picture. Can you find it and send it? Can we use that as the picture for the episode?
The title card?
Yeah. I think it's somewhere deep in my Instagram. I'll try to find it. But yeah, my sister has always been cool. So she's always introduced me to cool things. But I don't know where, like, I feel like the kickoff point was somewhere in high school where I was really into it. And I think like that lady I was taking out extracurricular classes from was really important at that time for me. And then, and I don't know if I could name like one person. It's probably just like a whole lot of people's.
It wasn't like an artist you saw, you were like, oh, I'm going to like do that. It was
no.
Like a creating thing and like people, backed you up on that or like,
Yeah, I think it was like mostly like the attention that I got once I was doing it that like really kind of fueled things like, oh shit, I can do something. And that was the driving force for a long time, probably still is actually.
Oh yeah.
Well, you do a great job. Everything that you put out, it's got a lot of character and it comes out really well. So
thank you. You're so
well
kind.
done.
Sorry, horses as a child or unicorns?
Was I into horses or unicorns?
Horses and unicorns, yeah, specifically, just because I know your sister is in love with that shit. And one of your recent meetings for the series, the adult book series that you have on your site right now, has the horse like kind of in that classic, I don't even know, pre-stampede pose. Where did that come from?
I think I was like looking up like symbolism of horses and stuff, and I'm sure I saw like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I'm sure I read some thing of like some Freudian thing about horses and dreams being like some weird sexual thing, I don't remember what it was, but I don't know. Horses are cool. I'm terrified of horses. They're humongous creatures. But
luckily they only like apples. They don't want to eat us.
Yeah. They could trample you though pretty good. Or you could get, I don't know. I respect their space.
Sure. You've had to pick between riding a horse, a bull or an elephant? What are you going with?
My first thought is like a bull, because if you're gonna like go for it, then just go all the way.
Okay.
And then you can say you rode a bull. Like anyone could. I think I've ridden. I've been on an elephant before for sure, like at the fair or something.
That is not the answer I expected.
I thought you were going to go elephant for sure, because they have those, like when we were kids at like the circus or the fair or whatever, you could like ride on an elephant.
Been there, done that.
Like,
Riding a
seconds, one hand, roped up.
That's right. Riding a bull is no joke. I was out in Kansas and they had an indoor rodeo at the bar that we went to. And there was dudes riding bulls inside the bar. And I was like, oh, I'm doing this. Oh yeah, live bulls, actual real live animals. And I'm like, I'm doing this. I went, pulled out the money. It was going to be like $100. I went to sign the paperwork and my buddy came over and was like, hey dude, like bull, this is a real bull. Like this is, you could go in the hospital for this. You're on vacation right now. You sure you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. We've been taking shots. And his buddy, who was actually used to ride bulls, came over and just put his arm around me and walked me away from the table. Like, you don't want to do that, California. You're going to get hurt, bud.
That's a good friend.
Yeah, so when you said bull, I was like, oh, damn, she's a badass.
I don't think I would really do it, but, I'd walk up to it and be like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then hopefully I was with somebody that would be like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
So funny.
Well, it has been a pleasure chatting with you. I thank you so much for coming on with us and sharing your stories and talking about Barney and all of the different things we talked about.
Thank you. I hope if there's one thing that you guys remember from this is the image of me as a child wearing the Barney outfit and all the Barneys with myself, like that's the important thing.
I pray that everyone remembers.
All the amazing art techniques and things that you explained through this, that's nothing. No, none of that. Just Barney.
Yeah, the important things.
No, your work's amazing. Thank you so much for chatting with us and trying to break it down a little bit. Is there anything we didn't cover that you want to hit on? Is there a message that we missed? Is there, you know what I mean? Like,
there's I don't know. Just tune in, there's cool things that are going to be happening, but are in the works for a while. So, and if anyone wants me to paint a wall for them, just to practice, I could do that.
Hey, dude, you just threw out a firm offer for no money right now.
Well, yeah.
You heard it first, San Diego. Free murals, your backyard, Chelsee.
Oh, God. Take it and run.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, dude. Your website is Chelsee Harris, but it's CHELSEE.
Yeah.
HARRIS.
Yeah. C like with your eyes, not like the C.
Chelsee.
Yeah.
Harris.com. Don't mix it up with ChelseeHarrisArt.com or else we're going to fight.
There is an artist that is an EA, Chelsee Harris, and that is not my stuff. I had a coworker look it up and I was like, no, that's not me.
And then what is your Instagram?
It's CHEL_PEE, like P like urine.
So you heard it first. Chelsee. You get it.
Yep. Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Thank you so much. And we'll talk again soon, hopefully. And hopefully I can get some work off you for my own personal collection. I don't know if you'd be interested in making anything on print for like the website, but at least a painting. I'd love to have one.
Absolutely. We can work something out.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Great talking with you, Chelsee. Have a great afternoon.
See ya.